And hello, welcome to a Narrative Live special report. We're very excited to have Lev Parnas here and Dave Aronberg, the great Dave Aronberg, former, what would you say your title was? Remind me, I should know, but you were the...
Former state attorney for Palm Beach County.
You. So you know a thing or two about how the system works in Florida.
He has lots of titles. He was also, you ran for the state senator of Florida, right?
Yeah, I was a state senator and current managing partner of Dave Aronberg Law, who is good to give my law firm a plug.
This is so good because we need a lawyer. We need a lawyer stat because there's a lot to understand around what happened with the Tate brothers today. Andrew and Tristan Tate are still, I believe, in confinement, in solitary confinement. After appearing before a judge today, they've got at least 59 charges that Britain wants them extradited on, including rape, trafficking, indecent images of a child. And, you know, their lawyer, for all intents and purposes, is saying they're innocent. And he believes, or he's certainly trying to pressure, that Marco Rubio will be the one who saves them from this fate that they're in. Because it is in fact, Rubio that lands up making the decision on any extraditions. Now, U.S. Marshals arrested the brothers on Saturday. Today, they got to sit in front of a federal magistrate, and a judge kept them locked up. And I guess they'll stay locked up. You'll tell us in a second whether they do. And whether they'll be released is just unknown before they get extradited, if they get extradited. So let's dig into what happened today. These guys are the worst news you could possibly imagine in terms of criminals. They've been here for 17 months under the invitation of Donald Trump. They appear before a judge today under this extradition order or request. What happened in court today, and what's the process between where we are now and them actually facing justice in the UK?
Well, Dave, why don't you go through this process, and I'll give them the process what they're going through behind in the cell right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So today, the lawyer for the Tate brothers, who's also apparently a lawyer who represented January 6th insurrectionists, that's right, is announced that they were gonna fight the extradition request, and you can expect that because they believe that the Trump administration will still weigh in for them. Remember, they were supposed to be in Romania facing criminal charges there, but apparently Trump administration, by way of Rick Grenell, met at least twice with high-ranking officials from Romania, not in the country, but outside the country at a conference in Zurich and elsewhere, to weigh in on behalf of the Tate brothers. And then the Tate brothers were given the unusual move of being released from house arrest, being allowed out of the country while the case was still pending in Romania, and they flaunted it. They were just living the high life. In fact, they were supposed to do a bare knuckles competition hosted in Miami, and then they got picked up.
This is a really important point. Let me interrupt you there, because Romania is still supposedly having this court process against these guys, and then Trump sort of springs them from there, and then they land up in the United States. And meanwhile, the British can't do their process because the Romanian process is still ongoing. So they've been held back from their own investigation into the Tates as well, while they've been waiting for the Romanian process, which has been stalled because they're not in Romania anymore.
So it's a very important point you mentioned, because the Brits had said that we're going to have to stand back and wait for the Romanian process to conclude. But then when they saw that the Tate brothers were flaunting it, were living large, and seemed to get away with it, they moved ahead. And not only are they prosecuting them for the original counts, but they added like 38 more counts on this, including child pornography, which every country takes seriously. So that is a big win.
That's the big one. What Dave just said is that is what is going to put the X on the kibosh on Trump. And I think the Brits brought out, the hard stuff. Sometimes you don't put out all the indictment. It was a sealed indictment, I think, in the beginning, but to let them know. And you're right. There's a lot going on, I like the way me and Dave sometimes don't agree on everything, but here we pretty much agree on everything when it comes to this situation, especially.
So you think that's enough? The child abuse thing is going to be, or the child pornography thing is the clincher here that is really going to make it difficult for them to not be extradited?
Well, you got to understand. First of all, they got a deal basically just like Maxwell did. If you think about, Maxwell got switched to a better situation. These guys got Rick Grenell made a phone call, but the difference is Maxwell is has the goods on Donald Trump. These guys don't have the goods on anybody. These guys is more about financial money and also influence when it came to the Trump first campaign. Because if you recall, a lot of these influencers really stood up for Trump, and that's one of the reasons why Trump won. So in a way, when Trump won, one of the ways to continue is repaying them, is that's why he was pardoning all the crypto guys, go not only the January 6th, but all the crypto guys, helping out all the influencers like the Tate brothers. But from what I'm hearing from sources inside, no, Trump is going to stay as far as possible away from these guys. He's going to distance it. There is no way, he's going to, especially Rubio, there's no way Rubio is going to block an extradition to the UK when it comes to these guys. I know the lawyers right now are talking, and there's a lot of conversations going on, obviously, with people like Zamboli and others. But I could tell you from being in that world, people like Zamboli, meet with all kinds of people, and this is what we'll talk about, and they make money off the being associated by the president. And it happens all the time. It's not just Trump. It happens to every president, every big, even all of our Congress people. You have all these, like groupies, whatever you want to call them, people that are like, are associated, and they are, because they have the access, because they can make the phone call. Because
he said that in that weird interview that he did with the Tate brothers that we played earlier. Where he's like, people come to me because of the access to the president. Which is exactly what Tate appears to be doing. I mean, he came to Zamboli, 100%. To get access to the president, to help him get off what was coming. These charges were looming for a while, right? I mean, these are not charges that just presented themselves now. They've been waiting for this kind of thing. And the Tate brothers, it appears like we're expecting this to happen. Dave?
Oh, yeah. Well, they knew that the UK was investigating, but they thought that they had a get out of jail free card here in the United States. And indeed, they got away with it by being able to leave Romania, even though they were facing serious charges there. Now, the Romanian case was still ongoing, and the Brits are going to have to deal with the fact that they had announced that they had to stand down until the Romanian case concluded. So that the Tate's attorneys are going to try to use that, say, this is political because the UK said they were going to wait until Romania was done. Until Romania was done. But in reality, they couldn't wait any longer, because they saw the Tates flaunting it, that they were out there just spitting on everyone and anyone who tried to investigate them. Like, for example, the Attorney General of the state of Florida, a very conservative Attorney General, who was appointed by DeSantis, was investigating him. They called him low testosterone. I mean, these guys thought they were above the law. So the Brits said, okay, you know what? We're going to see your 21 original charges from Great Britain, and we're going to add 38 new ones to make it 59 total charges in the UK between 2010 and 2017.
I don't know. It looks to me like Andrew Tate is kind of low testosterone himself. I mean, the way he was dressed at that time, he was picked up. I mean, not to comment on his fashion, but
come on, Zev. Come on,
come on.
You like it. Honestly, you like.
That's a very nice look.
You like. Okay, there we go.
Somebody else. I mean, you're not going to wear that to your Christmas party, are you, Lev? No, it's not going to happen.
I mean,
it's a look.
It's a look. It's, maybe for Halloween. I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. They're going through some things right now. And the Brits played a very smart move. I agree with Dave, because I think the timing was essential because of everything that's happening with the Epstein situation, the movement that's taking place against pedophilia. The Brits have basically been the front leader, even what they've done with Andrew, by having the king, vow his own brother, opening a criminal charges, even though it might not be, to as child pornography or sexual connected, but there's still charges connected to having to do with the Epstein files. So they're taking a lead role in that, and I think where the temperature is in the world right now. I mean, when it comes to Maxwell, I always talk about, yes, Trump won't care what happens there, because that's his legacy. That's really, she has the dirt on him, and she knows a lot more, and that's a separate conversation. These guys, they don't have enough money or to entice Trump. I mean, there's nothing that they could give Donald Trump, but I could tell you right now that he was going to go out there and stick up for these guys are some bad characters.
But especially now, I mean, he is going to head into an election. I mean, the Republicans are heading into an election that's not looking very favorable. He can't be out there saying, hey, the Tate brothers are great guys, we shouldn't be sending them. But that does kind of lean into the argument that the Tates are making, that it is a little bit political. Maybe that's why these extradition charges came in today or yesterday or Saturday, because, you know, you can't ignore the calendar here. It's hard to ignore.
I'll tell you guys how it works in there. So a guy like Paolo Zampoli, you know, I'm saying to you, first of all, let's take Paolo Zampoli. It makes sense that he would be the one that would be inviting the Tates over here with history with women and his relationship with Melania, his involvement in the Epstein files,
human trafficking,
human trafficking. I mean, yeah, you know. So now this is the guy that, you know, invites other alleged human traffickers, other alleged sexual predators into the country, and they're whining and dining. I guarantee you, you're going to start seeing with time how much money the Tate brothers have paid guys like Paolo Zampoli and others around, thinking that they had it in the clear because of his relationship to Trump, because of his relationship to Melania. But what they don't understand is these people use that relationship, and I've been there. I'm telling you from the inside, they never pass it on. They never. It's a wink. It's a nod. But when I could promise you, it's a racket. It's a grift that goes on in Washington, D.C. for as long as Washington, D.C. has been around, but now especially. I mean, I remember like in Ukraine back in our days in 2016, the first administration, like people would literally come here, fly from other countries like Ukraine, Russia, to go to a Trump fundraiser, spend $100,000 to be able to be in a picture line with them, to take a picture. Just for that picture, they would come back to Ukraine or Russia with a picture of Trump with a story that me and Trump are like this, you know, now and it works. And you know,
is that what you did? Did you get the picture of Trump and you went around Eastern Europe saying, "Hey, we're friends"? To some extent,
I actually had the phone. I actually would come up. I'd say, and I'd had Rudy call. Right? I'd put him on speaker. I want the direct link, but that's, you know, that type of. So these guys, the Tates are. Well, I could promise you they're coming every day. They're going to be spending in solitary confinement. You're going to see them coming to a rude awakening, because they definitely are going to start seeing that people inside Trump world are going to start walking away from them and start, you know, the promises are not going to, because again, from what I'm hearing, from what I know, I'm giving you an insider look. You're going to hear reports going back and forth. This is going to take plenty of it. This is not going to take one day. These guys are going to stay here for a while through hurricane season in Florida. Right, Dave? They're going to be, I mean, you know, cases like this. What's a typical extradition case? I don't even know. Like, I mean, if they fight it, which they're going to fight it, obviously. And I don't know. And that's the crazy part, like, because for them, the conditions that they're staying in right now are probably tremendously more worse than any conditions in England. I can tell you that in England. No, than even in UK.
I have a question for Lev, if I can ask him. I think the member of the Trump family that has the closest relationship with the Tate brothers is Barron. Right? And that's what's going to happen with that?
Yeah, no, Trump. But you got to understand, Trump doesn't really look at Barron or Don Jr. or any of the kids as somebody business wise, where, you know, he'll just make sure that Barron cuts it off. I mean, and Barron will deny it. Barron, and again, when you say relationship, a lot of these people play off the relationship, because they were during the Trump's run. You had not only the Tates, but you remember another guy, Nick Fuentes, he was a guest of Donald Trump. You know, they had dinner together, him, Kanye, and if you remember. And now Nick Fuentes is on the out completely against Donald Trump. And, you know, Nick Fuentes is a big supporter of the Tate brothers. So these are fractions and things. And I'll tell you this much. somebody taught me a good, this guy in Hollywood once gave me a good saying. He says, when you walk into a room, it's not who you know, because you can walk in and say it's who knows you. So, and it gives you how big you are. So if you take a look at that, you heard the Tate brothers saying they have a great relationship with Barron. You had the Tate brothers saying, Andrew Tate saying that him's close with the Trump. You've never heard Barron say that. You've never heard Donald Trump say it. You've never heard anybody from the closest idiot from the Trump family, I think, that supported the Tate brothers was in 23, was Don Jr.
I think J.D. Vance follows them as well. I think
follows
them on Twitter.
Yeah, follows them.
Yeah,
Alina Habba was drooling over Andrew Tate. She was. I saw an interview. I got a clip that I got to find it and show it to you guys. Benny Johnson was doing. She had her, Alina Habba, and Andrew Tate, and she was like googly eyes over him, like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of yours." I was like, I almost fell off my desk. You're a big fan of her.
Unbelievable. These are the most misogynistic.
I mean, I can't even imagine.
Guys to women, and you have that. She did say some complimentary things, and that, I mean, now everyone's running away from these guys. That's the thing, Lev. I think you're right. When the internet is saying, "Oh, Trump's going to protect them," no. With Epstein lingering over them, the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein out there, why would he die on that hill for the Tate brothers, who, although they're pro MAGA, Trump doesn't need these guys, and these guys are just going to complicate everything for them. And they split the MAGA movement. There are a lot of MAGA people who despise them. Inside the Republican Party, you have, like, that's one thing that unites Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly. They both think these guys are gross.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. They're very divisive. Let me ask you about this, though. If Paolo Zampoli is as close to Melania Trump as my reporting bears him out to be, that he's almost the guy who's been managing her career from the day she left Slovenia all the way to the first lady, and he talks to her and texts her every day. Does she have any influence in any of this? Do you think she might be the person who, through Zampoli, gets into Donald Trump's ear and says, you got to let these guys go?
No, it doesn't work that way. So let me tell you how it works. I mean, people like Paolo Zampoli never would even bring it up to Melania. He wouldn't even, if he would bring this up to Melania, he wouldn't be around Melania too much longer. I could promise you that. People like Zampoli don't bring it up to Trump either. They play their thing on the outside. They do their shtick because there's no way to verify that shtick because of their relationship. He could tell him, listen, it's a message. It's that you will hear, and that's why you're going to see, just like you saw certain people are now suing certain lobbyists because they gave $600,000. These guys, Jack Wall and what's those guys? By the way, it's so hilarious. I know one of those lobbyists that's getting sued by one of those celebrities for supposed he was good for $600,000. They promised him a pardon, and now they got Laura Loomer involved. Whole story about it. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of people, that play the game when it's in Trump world, but these guys, I could tell you from, and so you guys know my sources are pretty good. There's nobody in Trump world that is going to support it. There's zero support for these guys in the administration, personally, in the family, so it's going to, but the interesting part is going to divide more. Because, like you said, Dave said a very good point, because MAGA is being divided very hard because you have a lot of these hardcore pro-right-wing fascists, literally fascists. I mean, you got the Proud Boys. I mean, sections of those, you got all these influencers like Nick Fuentes and all of them that are so far, to the right that are, that made up MAGA is going to stand up for. That's what you're seeing in the commentary on the social media, on X and all of them. They're like, oh, yeah, Trump's going to do it for. I mean, you put it this way, P. Diddy will be out a lot quicker than they will. You know what I'm saying? I will put everything I have on that P. Diddy.
But the politics, so the politics aren't going to work. You're saying that there's just too much heat on these guys to possibly be doing it inside the court process itself. Dave, are there outs for them? Are there exit ramps that they could, exit this extradition, or are they sort of on a one-way road here that's going to be very hard for any attorney, no matter how good they are, to turn it around?
So here's the process. So you go to court and you say either that they got the wrong guy. These are not the Tate brothers. They're a mistaken identity. Well, that's not
Right.
going to work, obviously. Okay, well, then you have the next grounds, which is you could argue that they're not serious offenses that would put them behind bars for more than a year. Well, clearly, you're talking about rape and human trafficking. Yeah, these are very serious offenses. Child pornography, come on. So then they go to the next thing, I guess the last out, which is not going to work either. Let's see. So you have the fact that this is extraditable, that it's a serious offense, that it's not mistaken identity, and that it is punishable by more than a year. Then all you have to do is just show probable cause, and that's it. And probable cause is such a low standard. I mean, they have 58 counts. They've got now 7 different women, some who are underage apparently, who are claiming all these things. So clearly they have probable cause. So their best hope is that once it goes through the court system, that it gets appealed, and then finally it gets to the Supreme Court, and they lose their appeals, and then it's up to one person to sign off on it, and that person is the Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And under Article 4 of the 2003 extradition treaty between the U.S. and the U.K., the U.S. can say if this is a political persecution here, then we can deny extradition. And that's what they're going to push for. But as Lev said, there are so many reasons why that's not going to happen. That is not going to be the hill this administration dies on, especially a guy who may want to be president in Marco Rubio.
How long process is that for the Supreme Court to get involved? That doesn't sound like it's going to happen very soon. I mean, that's down the line, right?
I would estimate that this process is going to take anywhere between 1 and 2 years.
Yeah. So Trump may not even be president. It will be certainly be maybe a lame duck president at the time that this may actually come into effect, right? I mean, this is going to be him in his dying, year or two in the probably dying, but he's the last couple of years as president, if he stays only for 2 terms. But
lame duck, and who knows what's going to happen. But here's the other part about it: the fact that it's not going to happen for a year or two does not inure to the benefit of the Tate brothers. Remember that the Tate brothers are living large out there. Mm-hmm. They have a school that they teach young people how to be misogynists. They call it a PhD in pimpin' hose degree. I'm not even making this up.
No, you can't.
Crazy.
Right?
Crazy.
And so do you think they will last long in solitary confinement? I mean, that's where they are right now.
Well,
I think they'll get released in solitary confinement, but anything behind bars for the next 2 years, that doesn't help them. So this is all bad for them all around.
Dave, that's an interesting question I want to ask you, if I may, Zev, because look, I'm going to tell everybody out there, solitary confinement, nobody has an idea. Some people think that it's somewhere that it's safe for you. Prison is bad. I'd rather be by myself. It's the most inhumane. It's the most I don't know anywhere in the world. I don't know if they do solitary confinement the way they do it here in the United States. I'll tell you honestly.
Have you been there?
I've spent over 3 weeks in solitary confinement, and I don't know how I did not lose my mind. It was on 2 separate occasions. The first time when they arrested me, and they put you there for your own protection. This is the crazy part. Solitary confinement was meant to be for the worst of the worst people that are, it's called a SHU, segregated housing unit. And now they've also combined it by saying, okay, for high profile individuals, like, the P. Diddy, anybody that's in the media, anybody that is a risk that can't be in population, they will put them for their own protection because they don't want to get sued. The Bureau, think about it, if something happens to Tate brothers in prison, it's going to be the big thing, big investigation. So right now the Bureau, BOP are protecting themselves by keeping them in solitary, and that's why you saw P. Diddy. P. Diddy was in solitary confinement all those times while he was in MDC. All those guys are in solitary confinement until their trial. That is a tactic, and Dave will, I hope, will agree with me there. When you were the prosecutor, if you put your prosecutor's hat on, is one of the reasons prosecutors push people when they're in those conditions to come testify, plea, and make a deal. Because when you're sitting in such for sometimes, like Dave said, imagine this takes 2 years. Sitting 2 years in solitary confinement is, it's totally different than being in general population, especially for these guys.
Especially for these guys, yeah.
Well, because Well,
Yeah.
because they have money. They have money, and there's a population in prison that will follow them. So for them, and that's why today one of the things, the outtakes I took from the hearing that happened, because I had people on the ground. I was actually going to go live there. Me and Dave were going to do a live from there, but I couldn't make it down there. But the lawyer came out, and one of the things that they're fighting for, Dave, and that's why I wanted to ask you and talk to you about.
I think I have that
my
clip,
question.
by the way.
Yeah, was fighting about getting him out of solitary confinement, saying that that's the worst thing. He was basically agreeing that they were not going to get bail, that they're going to, this is a political thing, but he was really pushing on saying we're going to fight to get him out of solitary confinement, because I believe that's where the fight is now.
Should we listen to that?
Yeah. Okay, then I'll ask my question.
Let's listen to what he says here, and then we'll get Dave's expert analysis
Yeah.
of it. Let's see.
Because I want to ask a question about
process. The process is the punishment. When you drag somebody's name through the media, when you slander them, when you defame them, when you accuse them of heinous and terrible allegations, the process becomes the punishment until you can clear your name. They've been clearing their names domestically and abroad for years. This is just the next logical conclusion in that situation. Keir Starmer just retired, or is retiring. I'm sure he's mad that Andrew and Tristan Tate had a lot to do with his fall in Great Britain, and there's a new guy in there right now. But this is the last vestige of attack of a prime minister who didn't do a good job, and he continues to do bad work. And I'll just leave it there. Innocent until proven guilty. We're going to let the court process play out here the way that it should. We're happy to be here.
Mr. McBride, the U.S.-UK treaty allows an exception for extradition if the charges are politically motivated.
Right. Politically motivated? I think any one of these trees or any one of these rocks could answer that question. Yes, it's politically motivated. There's no question about it. These guys went to D.C. to exercise their First Amendment rights. They met with members of Congress as private citizens. They met with friends in Washington, D.C. They walked the grounds of the Capitol, and 3 days later, they're in the jumpsuit. You do the math.
So they're saying, let me just stop it. They're saying the meeting with Paolo Zampoli, that whole weekend in D.C., where Paolo Zampoli was taking them around, that is the political motivation, that because they were meeting with all these congressmen that Paolo Zampoli was introducing them to. He had a tea party, garden party with all these congressmen and these cabinet secretaries. That's the political motivation. That's crazy.
Well, they're trying to connect. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, essentially they're saying because they're meeting with all these conservatives that the Biden administration under Merrick Garland is locking him up. But hold on.
That's not the right one.
Wait a second. Wait.
Yeah, it makes no sense, right?
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
No, they're trying. What they're doing. This conversation is not for the judge. It's not for the prosecutor. This conversation is for MAGA. This conversation is for social media, for the Trump world. What they're trying to build this is there's two American citizens that have close connections to the Trump world that were here and with Congress, and all of a sudden the UK is attacking MAGA. The UK is attacking Trump. This is not. They're not making about Tristan Tate, because remember, their charges are not political. These charges are heinous, sexually predator. There's nothing political about the charges. They're trying to say that that's why they're taking the eye off the ball. With that said,
it would have been the DOJ that does this. So of course, you're right, Dave and Lev. This is the GOP basically doing this. Why would they do that against their own people?
It's not political. I mean, that's
right. Not political.
Yeah, because they know that there is a clause in the extradition treaty that says if it's political, you don't have to extradite. So this is the long game they're playing. But the long game is going to keep them behind bars, because they're also going to try to get them released pre-trial. But that is very unlikely to happen, because if there was ever a flight risk, these brothers would be in.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they'd be out before you knew it.
International connections, dual citizenship, lots of supporters around the world who will hide them. I mean, of course, they're flight risks.
Yeah, I've been there and done that. No, if they didn't give me bail, they're not giving them bail. So I can vouch for that. But I want to ask Dave this question: what is the likelihood of them getting out of the solitary confinement? Because that's my question. Because this is where I think everything is because these guys can't last, and no matter, see, they're like a balloon that you could pop. You know what I'm saying? They talk a big game. Yes, in Romania, the reason they were okay because they were in general population. They're able to pay people. They're able to get. It's a different life. That's what I'm saying to you. When you're in general population, and when you're with the money that they have and the clout that they would have in that world, it's a lot different than being in. The worst thing that could happen to them is being in solitary confinement. So what I'm saying is, in general population, they'd fight this all along because they could make their living conditions. Trust me when I tell you, Zev, with the money they have and the connections they have, it wouldn't be as bad as other people. Solitary confinement, no matter how much money they have, no matter what they have, this is the difference. They can't get themselves better conditions because you're in a part of a prison, a part of a jail that is literally, isolated. The doors are double padded. They're, you're in they can't give you a better cell. They can't get the best. Maybe you'll get a better mattress. You know what I'm saying to you?
It's not going to be fun.
Right. So what I'm saying, you're not going to be out. You're still going to be locked up 23 hours a day. Every
Is that
day.
a 23 hours a day without being outside at all? You have to oh wow.
You're locked up 23 hours a day, and you get 1 hour out, and not even outside, 1 hour to be able to make your phone calls, exercise, whatever it is, out of that cell. And if there's a lockdown or if there's anything happening, you don't get that hour out. You get to only shower twice or 3 times. I don't remember a day. Trust me, I went through it. It's the most inhumane.
Andrew Tate is going to fold like in a second under those conditions.
That's what I'm saying to you. So this is where it becomes the game. This is why prosecutors. So my question to you, Dave, what is the likelihood, because they are considered a major threat inside of civil. I mean, the prosecutors are going to say that they could be killed, or they, or it be influenced. They're going to fight as hard as they can to keep them in isolation. What are the chances of them getting out of isolation? That's my interesting question.
Okay, so the official reason why they're kept in solitary confinement is for their own benefit. It's not punitive. It's for protective custody. They're high-profile targets. They're polarizing, and they don't want incident behind bars. Plus, I think also they don't want them to pay off people to live large behind bars in the general population.
Right.
So I think a part of it is going to be the motions from the defense. I had a case in Palm Beach County where it was the defense who wanted this individual in solitary confinement because it was a she, and they did not trust that you'd have a jail snitch come and talk to her and snitch on her. So they kept her in solitary confinement for 5.5 years. And so that was their decision. But
5.5 years.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a murderer. She was a murderer. So she got out. It was a cold case. It's the clown killer case. You can look at that one.
Oh my God! Wow, Dave, I actually watched the documentary on that. We'll leave it for later. I can't wait. Okay, go ahead.
And I may be wrong. I mean, 5.5 years she was there. We think it was solitary. It might have been 4.5 years, but she was in solitary confinement for almost all of it. So here's the thing: the defense lawyer is going to file motions to get them out of solitary confinement. And I think ultimately there'll be a compromise. Not in the immediate future. I think in the immediate future, they're in solitary confinement. But then I think they'll be moved to a more of a maximum security area within the facility, a limited contact wing, high security. But I don't think they will be in solitary confinement for the entire stay of the 1 to 2 years.
But there's no way for them to get out of jail. Sorry.
No, I don't.
They're going to try. They're going to try to get them bail or bond. But as Lev correctly pointed out, Lev was denied it. In international cases like this, where you're waiting on extradition, the person is always going to be a flight risk, especially with the resources the Tate brothers have. So I would say there's almost no chance of being released pre-trial or pre-extradition. They'll stay behind bars, and the longer this drags out, the more days they'll have to spend in a very unpleasant holding cell.
Yeah, let me ask you, but plus we're to remember the judge, it's not Judge Cannon. Let me tell you, Dave, who the judge is, see if you know who this judge is, and see, because Judge Lauren Lewis, U.S. Magistrate Lauren Lewis, they're going to be going in front of their next hearing is on July 27th.
I don't know Lauren Lewis, maybe a new magistrate, but these magistrates are real professionals. They're not going to bend for these brothers, and also it's a woman. They're not going to bend for these guys, and they're not. They're given a lengthy appointment, and now they're at least in the near term their goose is cooked. Could they eventually, after they're extradited, somehow win at trial in Great Britain? Sure, I guess. I don't really know the UK system too well, but I agree with Lev that all the people who are saying that Trump is going to weigh him and they'll be freed and never extradited back to Britain strongly disagree. I think they're going to be in jail for 1 to 2 years and then extradited back to Britain to face the music.
Wow. Let's listen to a little bit more about the press conference that the attorney had outside the courthouse. And
we have many tools. One of the ways that we'll argue, I'm not going to give away our entire arguments here, but we're certainly going to say that there are special circumstances. We're certainly going to use a totality of the circumstances argument, and that will be one of the things that we argue for certain.
Mr. McBride?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, if the legal process goes towards extradition, it will be up to the Trump administration and the Secretary of State to decide to sign off on extradition. What do you believe the administration is seeing about this case?
Well, I appreciate your question. I see where you're going with it. You're fast forwarding to the end of the process. What's important to do now is focus on what's here and now, what's before us. Well, we have to go in there. We have a conference coming up in a few days. We're going to set a briefing schedule. We'll make our arguments before the court. We'll see what this judge does. I don't want to make political statements about the administration when right now that's the executive branch and we're here in front of the judicial branch. And I want to be mindful and respectful of the people that we're in front of here.
But do you believe your clients have support?
I believe that my clients have support from every person who's a reasonably minded person, whether they're in the United States or abroad, elected or not elected. Everybody knows that Andrew and Tristan Tate